Welcome back, everybody, where our national nightmare has finally come to an end. And Paul is going to finish editing the book today, which I'm sure he is pleased as punch to be done with.
I had so many cocktails last night, Brad. So many cocktails. I fell asleep on the couch at like 9:20.
The American
My wife
way.
was like, seriously? I'm like, you want to just go read in bed? And she's like, I could watch another one of these shows. I'm like, yeah, I need to be laying down.
No, I was candidly, I was a little surprised you were able to plow through that many chapters that quickly. But you
know how it is. Sometimes you can kind of see the finish line. The chapters, I think it's 26 chapters.
Yeah.
So you kind of get into the 20s, and you're like, I'm like, you know, I can, yeah. So I don't know. I spent a bunch of time on it yesterday. I think morning and afternoon actually, but it just seemed like the best use of my time. You know, I'm not saying that facetiously. I mean, literally. Like, I have other stuff I have to do for sure, but I know this is important and it's timely, and I need to, get moving.
Yeah, this is one of the. It's one of the few. I mean, other than embargo, it's one of the few things that we do that has a very serious hard deadline.
Yeah,
and so my goal here, Paul, has chapter 5 to finish today because somehow that got missed. But that's
I'm looking at it and I'm like, I swear to God, I read this. It's Steve Ballmer and blah blah, and I'm like, I remember this, so I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously I'll do it, but I was like, I kind of did do this one. But
the only I mean, I guess it's. I never even opened it. But the only reason I do is say you didn't do it is because it says last modified October 24th.
Oh no, there are no edits in it. Like it definitely was not edited. I was kind of hoping I was going to open it and be like, oh, actually I did edit it. Thank God.
And then send a big old FU to me.
Yeah. No, but I didn't. You can tell I didn't. So
yeah.
And then there's like, so I haven't looked at any of the ones I did edit. I get the emails. You've gone through them or whatever. That must be horrible, but
no, it's really, I mean, honestly, what I do is I do it. I was doing it paragraph by paragraph because to your point, when there's that many edits, it is kind of hard to read. And so what I would do is I'd go to a paragraph and hit accept all and then read the paragraph, make sure it's okay, and then move to the next one.
So I'm really proud of this. And I don't think you got to it yet, but in the chapter it's about the most recent Surface event where it was like the refresh of Laptop 2.
Yeah, that's not there yet.
So, okay, so I added, you should look at it right now. I added a sentence to the end. Like I added a final sentence to the chapter, and I think it just puts it right over the top. Because the whole time it's about USB-C on and on and on, and why didn't they, and why did they, and I'll just wait. This is gonna be right?
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Really hoping that one stays in there.
That will. That's a very. I will give you full credit for that sentence because
it's just perfect.
It's the perfect Microsoftism. It really is.
Yeah.
So.
And it's just nice because the way the chapter's laid out, you kind of step through the products and. They're just refreshes and blah, blah, blah. And, the year before they'd released 2 that had this port and 2 that didn't, and it kind of ends up with, actually, there was a new piece of hardware at the event, and it was like the Surface headphone. So it's kind of this, it's just a nice kind of way to wrap it up. The
good old, like,
it's something you would do, say or write or whatever. It's like your kind of a sense of, it's not really humor, but,
no, it's right along that path.
Snidery, or whatever, sarcasm, whatever.
And people are probably just loving this. This is why Paul was the perfect person to edit the book, because not only does he understand grammar, but he knows he knows the story pretty well too. So it helps.
Yeah, although like I said, this is like a weird thing for me. Like not all movies. Like obviously I've seen things like Star Wars a million times, and you're not going to watch Star Wars tomorrow and be surprised by anything,
right?
But it's funny, like for like movies or books, even like I'll come back to something years later, and I kind of forget it, and I'm like, this is kind of neat. It's like someone's washed my brain, and I can just experience this for the first time again. And then as you go, you remember things. You're like, oh yeah, okay. But this book has been like that for me because I like you said, I lived through all of this stuff, and it's interesting getting your perspective on it because for much of this we weren't working together, and you were kind of off to the side for me, and we were doing the same thing from different places, whatever. And then, just I don't know if it's just like a psychological thing, the way I cope with Microsoft is I block out stuff. I don't know, but it's a bit interesting. Oh yeah. Like there's stuff in here where I'm like, I completely forgot about this.
The one thing that becomes apparent is when you lay it all out like that, you kind of realize how many times they did screw up.
Yeah.
But obviously it's a success overall, and writing that Microsoft nailed it perfectly for every single feature doesn't make for a great story. And it's not that it's a negative book, but
well, no worries there.
There's a lot of interesting things. It's like, well, I guess that did work. Luckily.
Right.
So
anyway, it's good. Again, people who are into Microsoft at all, people who read our stuff, follow us on Twitter, whatever it might be, are going to enjoy this. It's a nice history of this stuff. It's good.
Yeah, I think the next. Now I just got to finish up the formatting, and then obviously we got to read it again.
Yeah, but I expect that to go more easily, right? And
I'm sure.
Because this time, you got to make. I already said this, I think, but there's got to. I kind of meant to do this myself. Like, I feel like there needs to be a list of don't forget, make sure when people are mentioned the first, because sometimes they come back into the story, like Panos Panay's in a lot, so you can kind of sort of assume people will remember who he is. And then there are kind of players like Ralph and Stevie who kind of come in and out of it. Terry Myerson.
Yep.
Whatever, that kind of thing. And some of those guys, they're like that. I used this my wife reviewed, when she was still in college, reviewed an INXS concert, and she complained that they never said who any of the band people were. And everyone knew the lead singer was very famous, and everyone else in the band was an anonymous nobody. And so she kind of made the comment that, nobody knows who these people are. And someone actually wrote back to the paper, and the paper printed it, where they said, they're all world famous. Everyone knows the members of INXS. And then they rattled off who each of the guys were. And it was like, dude, nobody knows that. And for some reason, the paper felt like this was worth publishing as a retort to my wife's review. But, it's like that kind of thing. I'm about as immersed in this stuff as I could be. And even I am not sure exactly what some people's roles are, or who, how they relate to one another, that kind of thing. But it's a book. It's not a blog post. You know this. I'm telling people, not you. This. It's it's complicated. There's connections. You have to kind of keep track of.
The one thing that you caught most of them, but not all of them. But I actually realized as soon as I sent it to you for editing. But in the book, you typically refer to somebody as by their last name, like Sinofsky, Ballmer, all that stuff. A lot of throughout the book, I was referring to him as Panos, but that's not the proper way to do it. It's Panay.
Well, you know what? So that's something I ended up being slightly inconsistent on myself, and I have a mental note to kind of look at this because, in a business book, you would refer to them as their last name. You're not necessarily personal friends with Satya Nadella or whatever. And I kind of made that correction throughout as I went, and then when I got to the end. Toward the end, I realized, like you referenced me with the Surface Laptop 2 or something, and I thought to myself, you wouldn't call me Thurrott, you know? And I realized, there are people personally that I don't think it is inappropriate or incorrect to use their first name. So, for example, I don't remember the reference to this, but Peter Bright is in the book 2 or 3 times, maybe or 3 or 4 times, whatever it is. And early on, I changed the references to him to Bright, or whatever, And it's sort of later on, I was like, actually,
it just doesn't feel. In that instance, I know what you mean.
Well, you got to remember who's reading this. Like for me and you, we're Peter. Like he's Peter. We're never going to call him Mr. Bright or whatever. Ugh. To the outside world, though, he's kind of a side character in this bigger story because he's a journalist, and you wouldn't call Bob Woodward Bob. Unless you work with them, unless you were friends. So I'm gonna, when I go through it the second time, I'm going to look at that. I will probably change the blogger names, to the first name, I think, and then you can do whatever you want.
Or maybe even just their full name. Yeah. Because what my plan here is whenever people are going to love this, and title podcasting is going to be Making the Sausage.
Yes.
Is because it's Mary Jo wants to read it too. So pretty much probably after you finish chapter 5, I'm going to just spin it into an EPUB file.
Yeah.
Send it to her and be like, look, if you find any grammar atrocities, please let us know.
Yep.
Give her a week to read it, just not editing it, but just reading it, just as a reader and see if she has any feedback.
She'll have things. I mean, every once in a while I would be like, I have this small thing that I kind of remember from this that I think adds to this. By the way, there were several times where you were writing about whatever, and I thought, why didn't he mention this other thing? And I wrote it in, and then I went down to paragraphs, and there it was, and I was like, oh, right,
yeah,
okay. Then you go I took out mine, obviously. But I mean, having lived through these events, every once in a while, I'll be like, oh, I kind of remember this thing, that might be an additional or an interesting add to this, and it was usually like part of a sentence or a small sentence. It wasn't like I was writing paragraphs or whatever, but except for that awesome last sentence, which again, yeah, that's a little. I was so happy to think of that at the end. It was just kind of at the end of the chapter.
Yeah. So, anyways, things that are that are happening in the world that are not book related are. I didn't refresh that tab, so I have no idea. I was in the forums because somebody has a badge that says "Works on my machine" is what you should get when 1809.
Yeah,
works.
I saw that. Did you see my reply? I was like, actually, what the badge should say is "seems faster."
Could you see? Oh, I'm sure I'm gonna have to.
Yeah, I
edit
did.
that
I
out.
saw little adjustments or whatever.
Even though I'm in Do Not Disturb, that still shows up.
It's because it's Skype.
That's fantastic.
Oh, it's because people don't. Also, Do Not Disturb is voluntary.
Oh.
Right? So if you're in Do Not Disturb, I can be like, hey, Brad, what's up? And you'll still see it. Which, by the way, stupid.
Mm-hmm. It's actually completely useless then.
It's possible it's tied to favorites, maybe. I don't know. But
that's definitely not a favorite right there.
Okay.
That call.
Gotcha.
Anyways, Xbox Game Pass now supports preloading on Xbox One and Windows 10 for everybody who cares. This thing back here got an update.
I think that's excellent.
Yeah, preloading is good.
For example, like I think it's already out, but PUBG is coming out on a certain day on Xbox Game Pass, or some day one game is coming out on Xbox Game Pass. You could download it from the store 2 weeks in advance. It will install, and then it just becomes unlocked for use on day. Like you wake up that day and you can just play. That's fantastic.
Yeah. Checking my internet speed right now because I just got it bumped, as you saw on the Twitters. It's not as fast as I was hoping. But I'm also on a call streaming.
Yeah, that's not.
But I mean, still 100 down on Wi-Fi in. Well, actually, that's probably not fair.
I still see. So, FiOS is sort of near me, but not here. So I get these ads, and it's like you can get like gigabit up and a gigabit down for like $70 a month, and it's like, why?
Yeah.
I just can't. Like if I'd stayed in Boston, I'd be able to get that, but yeah, I don't. I have.
Yeah, so this machine, that's actually pretty good because this is one on Wi-Fi, and it's just about as far away in my house I can get from the router. Now, I do have the Amplify, like extension points, whatever you want to call them, repeaters. But
but Wi-Fi, depending on the...
100 down here is not too bad, sitting at this desk. I'll take it. I'm paying for 500 down, but,
Sure.
You're sucking up my bandwidth, Thrat.
I'm on a cable modem. I get like 330 down, and I think it's 1 up or something. It's some ridiculous difference.
Yeah, candidly, I don't need 500 down is great. I'm not complaining about it, but it's the upload that's big because every First Ring Daily, which we do every day, is somewhere between about 1.2 and 1.5 gigs.
Yeah.
So being able to upload that.
That's why fiber or whatever, just symmetrical.
Yep.
That's not the right word, but identical download and up. Speeds are so important. I don't understand the cable modem industry, but whatever.
Well, it's a lot of racketeering.
Yeah, right. It probably is. It's probably the last great bastion of old school unionism, and protectionism.
Wow. So you got anything else for today, Mr. Thrat?
No, I mean, I thought I was going to plow through some device reviews that I never finished over the weekend, so I'm going to try to get some of that done. Today's complicated because I have Windows Weekly, so that kind of gets in the way. But no, that's kind of the big stuff on my plate. I still haven't switched over to the little knock on this computer yet. I got to do that. I woke up this morning and you kind of hit the key on the keyboard and the machine doesn't come back to life. It's kind of a classic HP problem. So I'm looking forward to seeing that the NUC fixes that. Hopefully, now that 1809 is finally out, I can get that going on there. I'm sure. What could go wrong? And yeah, that's kind of my week. The rest of my week in a nutshell. So I guess after I finish this chapter today, which I hope to do before lunch, most of it at least, or some of it, I'd like to take a day or two off.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Then, but then I'll have to dive back.
My plan was to start. So I guess realistically, my plan was to start reading again Saturday.
Yeah. Okay.
And honestly, you just have to be a chapter ahead of me. So that's.
Yep. Okay.
Finish it because I'd like to have it. I'd like to have the book done about a week from today.
Yep. Which is what was it? Yeah. So
I would say a week from tomorrow, but a week from tomorrow isn't that Thanksgiving?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So yeah. Yep.
All right. Finish this thing.
Yep. All right. Anybody else? I'm curious if anybody downloaded 1809. If you did, if you have any issues, I'd be curious to see if there are any. Hopefully there's not. But that wraps it up for today, and we'll catch you right back here tomorrow on what we're doing on the Book Daily.